Bristol Motor Speedway about to come alive again with the sound of Xfinity Series cars on track for their final practice of the day. There have been great moments in Bristol history. Who could forget the rattling of the cage? Earnhardt Labonte, too. Of course, Junior sweeping in 2004. Kyle Busch, the weekend sweep in 2010. Oh, yeah, there might have been a helmet tossed in 2012. And, of course, Colossus, from which we've got a new camera this weekend that will pan the track and a jib, and that'll be fun to see, too. Battle at Bristol, is that the only one? Will there be another? Nate Ryan from the NASCAR and NBC podcast is here to tell me that and much more as we sit and wait for cars to take to the track. And Nate, it's been interesting. We see Ross Chastain being interviewed there, a little bit in the news this week after an exciting finish at Mid-Ohio. And in the 90 minutes or 2 hours that transpired between first practice and now, you were down in the media center, and they rolled a few Xfinity Series drivers through there. What was the standout item from the podium there that you can bring back to us?
I think two things, Dave. Well, first of all, we heard from Elliott Sadler, Daniel Hemrick, Cole Custer, and Christopher Bell. And each of them had a nugget. And I think the two that stood out were Christopher Bell was asked about the Casey Kane situation, which we discussed during the first practice. Casey Kane announcing this morning that he's leaving NASCAR full-time next year, and that opens up the number 95 ride. They're considering going to Toyota. Question about would Christopher Bell be interested in it, and he just dodged the question, Dave. We didn't get a lot of illumination from Christopher Bell on if the 95 is a possibility, which I think says it is. And then the other thing we learned is that Daniel Hemrick still is looking for a ride for next season. And he said that Richard Childress Racing is trying to do what it can to keep him there, but he hasn't signed anything for next year, and he is somebody who has also been linked to the number 95 ride in Cup. So two interesting nuggets from both of those guys.
I think Bell's exact words were, well, that's news to me.
That's news to me. It was the way he framed it. And then
excellent deflection.
A recitation of his sponsors. And said that he was looking forward to running for the Xfinity Series Championship next year. That's what Joe Gibbs Racing told us the last few weeks, that they expect him to be running for the Xfinity title again next year, Christopher Bell. But there's been a lot of speculation, Dave, and I know that Christopher Bell has said that he is ready to move to Cup. He's got the 4 wins this year. I mean, he feels as if he's done everything he probably needs to do. And so if, as rumored, Levine Family Racing makes that move over to Toyota, I think that he would be on the short list of drivers as candidates for that ride.
Very interesting. Well, Christopher is 23 years old and very wise and very smart at this racing game already, all aspects of it. And he continues to be quick, fastest on the board right now. First practice was third quick in single lap times. Love watching them work here. It's such a rhythm, Nate, as they just are on the gas, off the gas, on the brake, and then traffic to deal with. He's getting around the 45 there of Josh Felicki. No, that's a contact right there.
Chase Briscoe nearly going around.
Yep, the 9 of Tyler Reddick getting into the back of Briscoe.
All right, all clear, not a roof.
Now you can move up. Wow. It's a little dangerous. Tyler Reddick is about tired of having contact on the track after last week and a few weeks before. Let's see what happened here. Now Briscoe just getting up to speed and just did not come off that corner nearly as well as Reddick.
It's certainly a moment, and we heard drivers talk about it in first practice and between practices. We heard them say that they're trying to figure out how to make that traction compound that is on that bottom lane work. So I'm sure there's a lot of anticipation to try to figure that out at this point.
See the clock on the upper left. Just over 46 minutes remaining in final practice. Tomorrow afternoon, the Xfinity cars will qualify, and then tomorrow night, the race. And then Saturday night, of course, the big night race for the Cup cars here at Bristol. Long a destination race for NASCAR fans. And we're going to give you lots of good looks from the onboard cameras, riding with Chase Briscoe.
And not just a destination race for fans, Dave, but also for drivers. We heard virtually every driver we talked to during that break profess their love and adulation of this place. And also heard from Kyle Larson. He talked to a few reporters, and He thinks NASCAR needs to race at Bristol more often
than
twice a year. He thinks that if we raced here every week, he thinks things would be pretty good. He has always loved this track, and he loves it even more since they added the progressive banking 11 years ago and being able to move from the bottom to the top. He anticipates that top lane will be available from lap 1 on Saturday night at the Cup race. He thinks it might take a little bit of time to come in tomorrow night during the Xfinity race, but the way the schedule lays out, he explained, with the truck race, Xfinity race, Cup series now all back to back to back, he thinks the top lane will come in earlier, and Kyle Larson believes that it'll be a factor throughout.
Chase Briscoe hoping that his day ends a little bit better than it did here in the spring. Driving the 98 car for Biaggi Denbesti, got a little contact from Daniel Hemrick, and the left front was crunched. That left air blowing up into the cockpit. No, this was later. I guess that had happened earlier. And they'd already taken the dashboard out as it was flopping up and distracting to the driver. So yeah, and he's just taken a practice run of approximately 10 laps. Passed a couple of cars, including the very much at home Chad Fincham in the 40. Chad's been looking forward to getting back here. Drivers from Knoxville, and has done very well here. There's Elliott Sadler, also coming up on the back of Chad Fincham. I'm going to keep saying Chad Fincham until we show his car again. There's Chad.
Elliott Sadler, of course, the big story of the Xfinity Series this week, Dave, with his announcement that this will be his final season in NASCAR. He spoke about that as well during the break between practices, and talked about his reasons for doing it, which really are all about family. Really, it's all about spending more time with his kids, and as he put it, I want to help them pursue their dreams. It's important to me to be part of their lives right now, and he said that it's time to put his dad hat on for his two children. So he did say that he could be back next year to fill some holes if Junior Motorsports needed it from time to time. He could fill some gaps in Xfinity races next year, but he doesn't intend to do anything else as far as NASCAR in the future.
We're going to talk to Elliott after this practice, and that'll air on NASCAR America tonight. Get some more insight from the driver who is stepping away. Of course, Bristol's been very good to Elliott Sadler in the Cup Series. His very first win came with the Wood brothers back in 2001. He used the fuel mileage strategy, and in the right place at the right time, took Elliott to victory lane.
Very much a surprise winner. Only his third season in the Cup Series then. The Wood brothers were struggling a little bit, and that one I remember came out of nowhere.
A lot of fans will miss seeing Elliott full-time on the circuit. A lot of them got involved because of got interested in the sport because of what Elliott brought to it. A very personable driver, and very quick as well. So is his teammate, Justin Allgaier, on board with him. He shuts it down after a run. He'll carry our helmet cam this weekend. You see him checking his mirrors and checking everything out as he brings it back down into the garage area. It's a very specific way to run practice, of course. He's taking the apron all the way around till he gets to turn 2, at which point he'll turn in. Brandon Jones, the 21-year-old from Atlanta for Joe Gibbs Racing. Nice look at the speed shot there. About a $125 on average, Nate, for these cars as they get around here. So it's not just a sensation of speed. It's actual, wow, I'm going a 125 mile an hour average on a half-mile track.
Well, I can remember when Ryan Newman, I believe, was the first driver to break the sub-15-second barrier in qualifying at Cup, and I think Kyle Busch did it a couple of years ago in the Xfinity Series, going sub-15 seconds around a half-mile oval. It's breathtaking to watch, especially from that camera angle.
And there's Chase Elliott.
And, of course, he and his dad are in the news this week, Dave, with Bill Elliott unveiling his paint scheme for the Road America car that he will run next week for GMS Racing. And I'm going to have Chase Elliott actually on the NASCAR and NBC podcast next week to talk about that and some other things. I'll be talking to Chase tomorrow morning. So big weekend for Chase, big week for the Elliott family, really a big month overall in August. We talk about him getting his first win at Watkins Glen and pulling double duty here this weekend, and now he'll be there in Road America to watch his dad race next week.
So how long do you cut down a podcast into? What's your time slot?
Usually I aim for 30 to 60 minutes.
Okay.
And
how much do you end up cutting out?
It depends. Sometimes anywhere from 90 seconds to 10 minutes. It depends. I try to find a vibe for the conversation.
Okay.
And I've learned, I'm very much an amateur editor. I edit my own audio. And but I've learned that there are some rhythms to it where sometimes it makes sense just to lose a question or an answer, even if you like the material or you like the topic. If it doesn't fit with, I think, the flow, sometimes you just cut some things out. I think,
and you expanded into 2 episodes with Brad Kay earlier this year. Does that happen often, or is that the only time?
That's rare.
Yeah.
That was a rare sit-down interview with Brad Keselowski that ran, and the total length of the interview was probably close to 2.5 hours, and I felt like, I feel like you have to condense these things into digestible snippets. People only have so much time. I feel like people generally listen to podcasts on their commute. So I want to try to keep that in that 30 to 60 minute range, knowing that's how long people usually take to get to work. But Keselowski was too good. I had to break that into 2 parts.
That was I'm a lawn care listener. So whether it's working on the bushes or mowing the grass or whatever it is, I've got the podcast on. So sometimes I have to bring up 2 to get it done. It's not in the state, but it's a 2 podcast lawn.
Yeah, that's a big yard, I think. Yeah, and we'd love to have you as a guest sometime, by the way. Not just a listener, Dave. We'd like to have you as a guest in the future.
Well, I would like to do that sometime. We've talked about it, but it's just I get moved over by people like Mr. H and Brad Keselowski. I get it. It's okay.
We were supposed to do it in year 1, and it just never quite came together. I've had Marty. I've had Kelly. I need to have you.
I became a lot less interesting in years 2 and 3, huh?
No, we're definitely not that.
We'll ride this till we make it happen. Love the shots we get from our onboard cameras. You're going to see them all day on Saturday, too. Well, most of the day. Qualifying happening at... we're not going to put qualifying on there for you. That's Saturday. Qualifying's tomorrow. I got my days mixed up. Pre-race, 6 o'clock. Countdown to green, 7. And then, of course, 7:30 will be the big race. Yes, it is 500 laps. It is all of that. And it's basically nonstop action. The difficult thing is for our producer and director to capture everything. It's impossible. That's why it's such a fun place to watch.
I would say the only thing harder is having to actually drive the 500 laps around here. Ooh, there's another moment.
That happens quite often. You were off the bumper there of Kyle Busch trying to get around Tyler Reddick.
That's twice Tyler Reddick has had near misses here in this practice.
He used to be a little quicker off the corner, it looks like. He's good. Kyle gets back in the gas. Tyler not so much. Yeah. Yeah, so Tyler may be going into crew chief Dave Ellens and saying, drive off. That's where I need some help.
It's a little bit more oomph coming up that corner.
Kyle Busch, for his part, 21 victories across the 3 series here at Bristol. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we were talking about it, Dave. It's kind of amazing to think about where this track ranks in terms of his career win list. He's closing in on 200 wins. He's 8 wins away from reaching that milestone across all 3 series, NASCAR, Xfinity, Truck, and Cup. And more than 10% of those wins have come right here at Bristol between the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup series.
Very comfortable, knows what he needs, and, of course, that's the challenge for Eric Phillips to get that right every time. And most weekends I end up going down and talking to him. Well, how close are you? Well, pretty close, but, could always use a little of this, a little of that. Here's when he swept last year. Our series race. Overcame a speeding penalty in the Xfinity Series race. Good reason to be refreshed. And then, of course, the bow after the Cup Series win. And there it was.
Breaking out the broom for the second time. Also swept this place in 2010, which we saw is immortalized up here in our opener above the grandstands with some other seminal moments like Dale Jr.'s sweep in 2004 and the Earnhardt-Labonte clash in 1999.
There it is. Sweet smell of victory that night, I'll tell you. It's a gum reference.
I got it. I also get a kick out of that there's 4 driver moments immortalized up there, and one of them doesn't involve who won the race at all. It's just Tony Stewart throwing his helmet at Matt Kenseth, who he was quite perturbed with in that 2012 race.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember. I got to do that interview afterwards, and that was some kind of smoke that night. He was in rare form.
For the record, if anyone's curious, Denny Hamlin actually won that race, but that's what everybody's going to remember. Those are the moments that people look forward to when you come to Bristol.
Well, and as a fan, it's all about the whole weekend, right? It's the entertainment, it's the camping, it's the food, it's the the drinks, everything else, and then what happens on the track. Sometimes you remember who won.
Yeah, right.
I think what most people are amazed with this toss, Nate, is the fact that he's got 2 hands on it, and he just nails it in the middle of the hood.
And now we did a ranking of NASCAR America tosses of various objects after crashes, and Kyle Petty gave Tony Stewart some demerits for the two-handedness of this. Ward Burton, on the other hand, used only one hand to hurl his heel pads at Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 2002. So Kyle Petty thought that was a better throw. I agree with you, Dan. I think 2 hands in this case was okay, especially considering it's a rather large helmet.
It's hard to get the accuracy down with that.
Yeah.
Well, he was not happy with Matty that night, that's for sure. Kyle Larson's been happy. His car was quickest in first practice. He is second quick now in single lap times, and 4th and 5th in 10 and 5 lap averages. Kyle has a similar affinity, I would say, to the other Kyle at Bristol Motor Speedway, as you pointed out.
That he does.
Every other weekend, would that be okay with Larson?
I think that would be all right. And he loves this place because he thinks it puts on the best style of racing. But even when it was a bump and run track before progressive banking, he told us this morning that he'd never miss a Bristol race. He always watched this one. And if you asked him, which race stands out, he couldn't tell you. He said he loves watching it because it was just always lots of fun to watch. He said it's by far Kyle Larson's favorite NASCAR track.
Gets a little off the bottom groove there. Again, trying to master the setups with about 30 minutes left in final practice before they sit down and think about it for a while. I've been fascinated by how high the left front of the race cars are lifted off the track. I don't know if I've noticed that before, especially through 3 and 4. Not so much there, but watch this. Cole Custer takes it down, trying to get around Bailey Curry.
Lifting up quite a bit.
So that's the 00 of Cole Custer right ahead of him. A little loose off the corner. That's Vinnie Miller and Johnny Davis's 01 car. Happy birthday to Vinnie. Turns 21 today. I asked Vinnie and his people, what about a celebration or a little, drinky poo? He said, just one tonight. We'll have a heck of a party tomorrow night, but just one tonight since I have to work on Friday. And it will be a mojito.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Vinny's drink of choice on his 21st birthday.
I think I had a beer on my 21st birthday.
I don't remember where I was. Where was I? What was I doing? What life was I in? That was a long time ago, Nate. Here's his teammate, Ross Chastain. You see they're running all the Flex Seal products this weekend. Flex Tape, Flex Glue, Flex Seal. And Phil Swift, the inventor, the guy you see on TV that cuts his boat in half and then takes it out on the lake with tape over it, he will be here.
Will there be demonstrations this weekend, Dave?
Well, what I think they should do is they should cut a car down in half, right? And then let Phil take it out on the banking.
Why not?
What could go wrong?
I've seen cars cut in half before at this racetrack, actually, not intentionally, unfortunately, but the first Xfinity race I was ever here for on an August weekend in Bristol in 2002, I watched Mike Harmon's car disintegrate during practice. That was quite the sight.
And there was Mike sitting in it. And you could see him.
Just got right out.
Much like the Michael Waltrip crash on the back gate there. It just... Unbelievable things you've seen here. You've seen cars rolling down the banking. Dogs and cats living together. It's Bristol, baby. This is Austin Cindric in the 12 this week. Joey Logano will be in the 22, the mainstay for Team Penske. This is one of 3 cars that Austin has competed in this season. Or he's going to run the 98 also. Let me look. It's possible.
He's all over the place.
So we mentioned cars rolling around down the banking at Bristol. Yes, it has happened in the past. Larry Newber in the foreground there, Bob Jenkins in the middle, and we think that's Jackie Arute on the outside there. 1985. We'll show how steep it is. We'll roll an old VW by just kicking it with our boot. Nice. Look at the angle of the wall, too. That's the other thing.
Right.
Boys hanging on for dear life there.
Now, Dale Jr. was saying that he wants to try this with a car, and he tried to do it this week, and that banking is what makes it possible, of course. He's hoping to do it, he said, next year on NASCAR America. He said that yesterday.
Okay.
But that 30-plus degree banking is what makes it happen.
These onboard shots get you right up next to it.
I believe that you have some experience with this banking as well, Dave, in terms of...
It's true.
I don't know if you call it a stupid human trick or where this would
back in the early aughts, we bowled and we struck. This was live on TNT. How about that? And then Rutledge tried to show us the banking, and this was much more dangerous.
I was worried for him.
Oh, we have had fun illustrating just how steep it is here at Bristol. 36 degrees. 34 to 36,
some
splitting hairs.
Yeah,
that's right.
Over 30.
And progressive, so it gets steeper as you get to the top there.
Now, I believe Marty said on NASCAR America last night, every time you practice that bowling, you got a strike.
So in rehearsal, we bowled and we struck. And then we're like, man, we just, we're not going to do it live now because we just did it once, That was our one take. So they recorded it just in case, But then in live form, we did it, and it worked out well. The only part of that you didn't see was Marty, who does not like heights, clinging for dear life to the fence. So he went up there with me, but only one of us bowled.
I see.
It was a lot of fun.
And whose idea was that?
It wasn't Marty's idea to go up there, I can tell you that. So I don't know where we came up with that. We were the Dave Discovers line of thinking back then was, what in the world can we come up with? And each week something fun. We shot hoops with LeBron here.
I remember that.
We put a hoop up on the fence, and LeBron made it in rehearsal, which was awesome because we recorded that because the wind picked up during the actual live event, and he failed to score. So he drove the hoop and, of course, made the layup. So we have had a lot of fun here.
And as we were discussing earlier, Dave, Larson loves, as we see Tyler Reddick still looking for a little stability.
I don't think he wanted to be in the high line there, did he?
No.
Larson seeking it. Here he goes. I'll just take the wait.
So that's the third time Tyler Reddick has been involved in a moment during this practice, and 3 different drivers as well. Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, and was it Chase Briscoe?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Logano's going to hang the low line there in the 22, while Larson chases that high line. It's not always something that's going to be fast in practice, but what Larson's learning is what may play out in the race.
Right. Yeah, this is all just building institutional knowledge for tomorrow night and figuring out how to make it work when he's up there, when that groove comes in. Obviously, it's not all the way there yet, but this is what he said in the spring last year, is that he would put his car up there, even if it wasn't necessarily helping him go faster now. He wanted to build that groove in as much as possible and rubber it in as much as he could, because that's where he wants to be.
Moments at Bristol happen fast and they happen big. back in the day, there was a gate on the back stretch here that was, shall we say, much more exposed. And if you got out of shape, as Mike Harmon does here, that's Waltrip's. Sorry, that was Waltrip's. I feared for Michael that day, and a lot of people did. And he popped up out of there, much the way he popped out of the roof hatch in his Cup car years later. Look at him, good to go. And unbelievable. And that's Mike Harmon's crash.
And what was scary about this one, Dave, was that's Johnny Sauter running into his car at full speed coming off of that turn. And then just like Michael Waltrip, Mike Harmon just got out as if nothing happened.
Oh, unbelievable. So thankful that safety was where it was then and that luck was on our side that day, no doubt. But things have improved a lot. You see there's sort of a recess now of that gate off of the safer barrier, which makes a huge difference.
Right. That gate is firmly secure now as it wasn't that day in 2002, and probably never will be left unsecure during a practice ever again like it was.
Mm-hmm. It's a two-car of Matt Tifft, driver doing well on points, looking at making the Xfinity Series playoffs. 143 to the good. You see over on the left there, the cut line is at Ross Chastain. They only take 12 from the Xfinity Series versus 16 for the Cup Series, so Tifft is looking in good shape there. Does Chastain need to be concerned, do you think, Nate, or what at this point?
I feel like that's a pretty big cushion. Although I say that, and then I forget that we're
5 races to go.
Yeah, it's not starting at Vegas. It's starting at Richmond. So, yeah, maybe 49 isn't quite. Maybe there is something too when Joey Gase says, "Hey, he's got to make it on points," and I'm not going to forget that. He knows that he has 5 more races to pay him back for feeling as if he was aggrieved at Mid-Ohio on that last lap. So, yeah, I think he probably can't quite feel safe with a 49-point lead with 5 races to go.
Here's a driver that would like to find his way into the playoffs again with a road course win next week at Road America. Let's look back at it, shall we? This was a good strategy call, much like last week when Justin Allgaier had better tires at the end, was able to get around the 22 of Austin Cindric. Clements was on better tires, and he chased down the 19 of Matt Tifft. This contact with, I think, 2 to go brought them to the white, and then Clements got going quicker, went to victory lane, and he was ecstatic and shocked and speechless all at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say probably the most unexpected playoff entrant since NASCAR went to the playoff series with the Xfinity Series a few years ago, and getting a little bit of congratulations here as well. And yeah, that was a big day for the team.
Signed a lot of autographs, got a lot of congratulations from folks, and the car was 10 years old. I understand the one he is bringing to Road America is just about 4 years old and has some good history to it, so Jeremy's pumped up. Right now, Clements 20th on the speed chart in single lap times. Still a family-owned operation. His dad builds the motors. Just a very few people work on that race car during the week. And they've made it work for a long time. I've been impressed with how much of a staying power they've had in this sport.
Yeah, indeed. And just really a testament to what it means to be a racer. That you can compete outside of that Charlotte hub where everybody else is based and do it with so few employees and still get to the track every week and be fairly competitive to the point where you can put yourself in position to win a race.
Winning is on the mind of Daniel Hemrick every week, and unfortunately he's reminded of it a lot, still seeking that first win in this series. But he takes that in stride and has been very quick in the 21 car this year.
Yeah, and again, he talked about wanting to run Cup in the future. He said he'd like to get a win in Xfinity before that happens, of course, but he feels as if he's ready to go, that he's hoping to land somewhere next year, and if it's in the Cup Series, he'd be okay with that. He also had a wonderful memory, Dave, about Bristol. He said he could remember sitting on the foot of his parents' bed back in the mid-'90s watching the Earnhardt and Labonte race in '95. among others. So they said that was one of his first memories of racing.
Tyler Reddick's adventures continue. Wanted to go underneath Chad Fincham in the 40. Yeah. Instead, got out of shape.
Got a teammate behind him in that case as well. Loose is fast, but probably not that loose.
And that's sort of the way that Reddick has come into stock car racing. He's driven open wheel cars in the past and is familiar with that feel, but they've had to find, what is the feel that Reddick's looking for. And this group has worked hard on that. And it's kind of hard when you're new. They don't want to rein you in. At the same time, they've got to keep you from wrecking cars every week, too.
Coming off his win at Mid-Ohio, Justin Allgaier, of course, is Tyler Reddick's teammate at Junior Motorsports. With Elliott Sadler leaving that team next year, Dave, I think it's fair to say that Justin Allgaier would be considered the dean right now of Junior Motorsports going forward. Of course, Elliott Sadler's finishing out this year, wants to get that first championship, but Justin Allgaier really seems to have found a home in the Xfinity Series with Junior Motorsports.
We've had fun calling Justin and Christopher Bell the big two in the Xfinity Series. And they have the majority of the wins this year. Ryan Truex would like to join that group. He's going to shut the 11 down here. That's a big weekend for Colleague Racing last weekend. Leaf Filter based in Ohio, and they had over 300 employees at the track, and had a big time watching Ryan drive to a top 10 finish. It was a good day for him.
Yeah, that team has shown that it can do well with multiple drivers, whether it's Blake Cook or this year with Ryan Truex. They have been in that hunt, much the way Jeremy Clement's team has been as well.
Joey Gase, one of two drivers for SS Greenlight Racing, owned by Bobby Dotter. His teammate is Spencer Boyd in the 76. Joey nerfed out of a good finish last week by Ross Chastain. A little something to say about that afterwards. I talked to him this morning. I said, anytime you want to speak your mind after a race like that, you just let us know, because we're sometimes, we don't want to get in your face. But I said, oh no, I was ready to talk.
Let's take a look back at what he had to say after that Mid-Ohio race. Dave, where after he got into it with Ross Chastain, and Joey Gase had felt as if he had made a clean pass, and then he got bumped out of the way by Ross Chastain in the next corner after Joey Gase said he'd been hit multiple times, and then a little bit of a cruise scuffle broke out as Joey Gase had some words for Ross Chastain, and then here's what he told us afterward.
I don't really appreciate that a whole lot. He's kind of Johnny Davis's golden child, and he can't do anything wrong, and he forgets that we're right there with him now. And the funny thing is, he also forgets is that he's trying to get in the chase, and the only way we can do that is we win. So he's trying to do that off a point. So can make that really, really difficult for him, and people just got to remember that we're here to race too.
Johnny Davis's golden child.
There's a candidate for quote of the year, I think, in the 2018 Xfinity Series.
Mm-hmm. Now, Johnny appreciates Ross's competitive nature, and he is the car in that stable ready to enter in the playoffs if he can hang on for a couple of weeks here. But now Joey was very outspoken, and it's okay. They ended up finishing 8 positions apart, so that means a lot to Joey.
Yes. I suspect that may have been what angered Joey so much, is that these are two teams that are, let's face it, are toward the back end of the garage, and I think he probably thinks that Ross Chastain can appreciate his situation as much as he can appreciate Ross's, and I think that he felt, that Joey Gase felt, as if the level of respect was just missing there for two cars and drivers who are in similar circumstances.
Here's Alex Labbe. Had a nice run last week for Mario Gosselin. 9th place finish. I had a chance to catch up with him about that. His success in the Pinty Series, he's the NASCAR Pinty Series champion from last year. They didn't come on the road courses, but he had some good runs. And, this has been a learning process for him. The cars are different. The step up is definitely there. And so between Gosselin and Team 36 and the driver finding his comfort, it's been a climb.
Still some excellent drivers, though, in the Pinty Series. I was in Toronto last month for the IndyCar race and saw the Pinty's race as well on the streets of Toronto. And Alex Tagliani, former winner in the Champ Car IndyCar Series, he was competing in it. Andrew Ranger, there were some really fierce battles. So I can appreciate that if you're a driver coming out of that series, you're still racing against some really good talent, even though it's a lower level.
Labbé is from Saint-Hubert, Quebec. Good to see him in the series this year. Josh Williams is teammate in the 90 this weekend, so keep our eye on him. First look at Ryan Reed. Had a nice weekend at Mid-Ohio as well.
One of the Roush Fenway racing drivers has become a bit of a fixture in the series, both in terms of making the playoffs and getting a win here or there, usually at the plate races. But Ryan Reed trying to make a name for himself on the ovals here as well.
Finished 10th last week at Mid-Ohio, and to me that was one of the really good takeaways from there. A track where if you're not going to be the outright leader of the pack there, at least don't make a bad day for yourself, and Ryan did a good job of that.
Yeah, we heard that from Christopher Bell and some other guys on road courses. It's just all about not embarrassing yourself, right? Don't put yourself in a position where you're in the headline for the wrong reason.
It's funny, I gave Truex credit for a top 10. I should have given him a top 5. It was 5th place for the 11-car driver. One of the best he's had this season. 13.5 minutes remaining in final practice. Getting a look at some of the other drivers on track. Ray Black Jr. driving B.J. McLeod's number 8 this weekend. Asked B.J. who was going to be in his cars next weekend, as he says it, looks for sponsored drivers to drive his machines. And he says Scott Heckert and, watch me lose the other one here. Nah, that's a brain fade right there. Heckert will be in one of his cars. I'll find the other one here in a second. Brain will click in. BJ's in the 15 for Johnny Davis Motorsports this weekend. The Florida driver loves being a car owner. And in fact, he said next week, not being in either car, he'll be simply a car owner. He said that's a little nerve-wracking. Loves to get behind the wheel as well.
He is one of the characters, certainly, in the Xfinity Series. Subject of a Yahoo Sports article recently that was quite well read. He's got quite a story.
Well, he's a super nice guy. I remember you had Tommy Joe Martins on the podcast, and Tommy Joe was one of those people who say, you got to understand BJ. He looks like he's out of an affliction catalog, but he is the nicest guy, and providing not only himself, but a lot of other racers opportunities in this sport.
Yeah, no question. And it's not easy getting to the racetrack week to week when you're one of those teams in the back, but they do have things to race for, actually. Tommy Joe Martins talked about that on the podcast, that there are bonuses that those teams that are just trying to be in the 20th to 30th position in the points that they are competing for. So even though they aren't necessarily running up front, aren't running for wins, there's still a lot that they're going for in terms of where they finish in the points.
Here's Josh Williams, the other Mario Gosselin entered car this weekend. The car was entered last week by Andy Lally, who had a great run going. Got moved out of the way late. He was on older tires like a couple of the other competitors and ended up with a worse finish than he really ran with all day. And Bailey Curry. Now, you laugh because
this is my all-name team.
This is the all-name team. Go ahead.
Bailey Curry is the driver. Case Kallenbach is your crew chief. So, if this was a horse race, Dave, and we were betting, I'd put my money on the 55.
You like the Curry Kallenbach combo?
I love these names. Yes, yeah. Love these names.
No, it's a lot of fun. Josh Bilicki is his teammate in the 45 car. In fact, you can see, I'm going to call out their decals there. That's a 45 underneath the 55 there. So this used to be one car that Josh is running, and very few people working in that group Josh is on the phone all the time to put sponsorship together. Good to see them at the track week to week.
Former Xfinity Series champion from 2000, Jeff Green, won here in March of 2002. So good to see Jeff Green still competing out here. There was a recent race he ran at Daytona, and you had a large part of the field involved in crashes in that race, and I think he had his best finish in I don't know how many years, but I believe it was a top 15. So good to see Jeff Green still getting it done out here on the racetrack.
And always good to talk with him. Love talking with Jeff. He is an outdoorsman and just loves being on his land, but still loves getting behind the wheel. There's Ryan Sieg. I understand the sponsor is actually a cool box that some of the drivers run. You see them on the car this weekend, nicely painted up. Sieg, a family operation just outside of Atlanta. A couple of veterans work with them, but that is family owned and entered. And Ryan, of course, carrying on the Sieg family racing legacy in honor of his late brother Shane, who he will always say was probably better than me. Left us too soon.
Even though Ryan has done fairly well for himself.
Yeah, exactly.
In the Xfinity Series the last few years.
Been fun to watch Garrett Smithley lately. He's gotten a couple of Cup Series starts and hopes to continue that trend if he can. And Garrett, as well as anyone else that sits in a Cup car, gets some time behind the wheel there, just says how much that helps their Xfinity Series effort. It's that seat time. It's the next level. You just learn stuff.
Which is the opposite of what we normally hear. It's normally what we're asking is the narrative of how does the Xfinity Series help the Cup drivers in this race, which are Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott. There's a reason they run this race to get prepared for Saturday night, but that's an interesting perspective, Dave, that actually could work in reverse for somebody who runs full-time in Xfinity and kill more extra time on the Cup side.
Well, and I think one of the things is they talk about using that track bar adjuster that is inside the Cup car, something the driver can do lap to lap to adjust the handling of his race car. And I've been told that that can apply to things that they can do with these cars. These cars don't have that adjuster inside, of course. Nice save there by David Starr, who possibly could have used an in-cockpit adjustment.
Maybe he could have used the track bar adjuster at that point.
Right, but it makes you think in different ways, and you come back and say, well, could we do this? And perhaps the crew chief or the car chief hasn't gone there in a while or late or at all, and it can pay off. Had a nice conversation with Spencer Boyd this morning. He is very pleased with how he's run this year, kind of putting together what's going to happen next year. Not sure yet, but has had a nice full season as Joey Gase's teammate. Nice little friendly rivalry between teammates on that team. I think I'm looking at a row of potential race winners here. 19 of Jones, moving to the high side, 42 Larson, 20 of Bell, 2 of Tift, all very quick.
Yeah, Tift quietly coming off a solid run there at Mid-Ohio, top 5 finish. And as you mentioned, I think that he is somebody having made that switch, Dave, that he's ready to sort of cement himself with Gibbs and Childress to show that he can win in the series.
And it's funny that in the group here, Jones, who went from Childress to Gibbs, and Tift, who went from Gibbs to Childress, and they talk in the same generalities. Well, what worked better over here, that I'm working on over here, and vice versa. I think the Gibbs cars are a little bit known for their longer run speed, and the Childress cars are a little bit better on the short run speed. And so both drivers have been trying to migrate to the middle there to what's the best setup for me to handle and try to win a race. See Jones trying that high line.
Here they are, side by side, the two drivers who essentially traded places for the 2018 season.
Six minutes to go. Got something on your mind that you want to try? Try it now. Qualifying can be another chance to try something, but these cars will be impounded after qualifying, so that means you can't really work on them the way you can't take anything big back out of them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you better nail it down by the time you go to qualifying. Here's last week's 5th place finisher, Ryan Truex.
When I was down in the infield, Dave, I actually saw quite a few cars were going through the tech inspection. I presume because you try different things between practices and you want to make sure that you're still within the legal bounds. So it was interesting to me. And it wasn't quite like a qualifying inspection line, but there were more than a few cars lined up going through and checking things out with NASCAR before they went back out for this final session.
Yeah, the Tech 9 is not open 24/7, 365, but it's open a lot of the weekend, and teams get a chance to, as you say, make sure they're close, especially if they make big changes in the cars. And NASCAR wants that. You know, they've got a lot of rules. That's true, but they also give you quite a bit of time to make sure you're compliant with those rules. Truex making some time on Hemrick there as he works the high line. Tyler Reddick now 70 laps in this session. Now Larson has 101. Wow, which is amazing. He just got out there and ran. But 70 laps for Reddick, and they haven't all been straight. So hopefully Tyler has found the edge and avoid stepping over him.
We've seen him have a few incidents already in practice, and here's another one. Almost has a little bit of contact there with Chase Elliott. So that's what we're up to. Is that 5 near incidents for Tyler Reddick?
I can't believe you're counting. I just can't believe it.
It's that reporter instinct of me. Yeah, it's been an eventful practice, a character-building session.
There you go.
For Tyler Reddick. That he's survived it actually is a testament to his ability, that he's been able to save it and ensure that it didn't end up in the wall in any of these instances.
Well, that last one involved the spotters, right? Clayton Hughes for Chase Elliott and Earl Barvin spots for Tyler Reddick. They're required to be up there for practice, so they were obviously on their toes and kept those drivers apart. Allgaier making the bottom groove work well. So why not try the high gun? Right?
It's working for the 42. Kyle Larson's doing it.
Ooh, that didn't work as well, though. And that's why you try it. This is practice.
Yeah.
And with two distinct lines, obviously, Nate, it's, hey, run where the other guy isn't.
Right.
So if he's low, you go high. If he's high, you go low.
Again, given that option that you didn't always have here at Bristol, but have had really for the last decade. It was funny, I asked Kyle Larson about that. You know, he's such a big fan of the progressive banking, but yet he said he never missed a Bristol race when he was a kid. I said, did you like the bump and run, but now you like this better? And he said, well, you got to remember the bump and run still happens. Mm-hmm. Even though you have options and progressive banking gives you 2 lanes of racing, you'll still see it. And as he pointed out, it happened to him with Kyle Busch back in the April race here in Cup, where he finished second to Kyle Busch. So even though drivers do have ways to get around other drivers, sometimes you'll still see the old bump and run from the 90s.
Feathering that throttle is Allgaier. Fun to hear him work. Allgaier's going to get up close to 60 laps in practice here with just about a minute remaining. And that should be plenty.
I really am amazed that Kyle Larson has turned 101 laps here, and no one else really close to triple digits in terms of lap count. Looks like Tyler Reddick had 83, That's it in terms of guys with more than 80 laps.
Well, and you don't stay out there if you don't like your car.
Right.
So obviously Larson is very pleased with the generalities of it, and I believe just trying to see where it'll work best. Such a good look there of the disparity between the lines. And I think that's where some of that bump and run contact comes now, right? Because the speed differential at those different exit points and entry points, that can change things.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems just as easy as, you just move up a lane, but as you said, the variation in speeds there can make that much more difficult than it seems.
Black and red coming up at the line, right here, all good.
NASCAR will display the black and red flags, and that is it. Think about it. Change it overnight if you want to in your mind, and then work on it tomorrow in the garage before qualifying. Christopher Bell, quickest, no surprise there. Cup guy's still looking good up top.
Yeah, I like Kyle Larson, I think, as a favorite for this race. But, of course, how can you count out Kyle Busch?
You don't. You don't ever. Put him on your fantasy team. Every time. If you can. Here's what's happening the rest of today. NASCAR America coming up at 5. And don't forget the Dale Jr. download. Nate, you told us earlier some really good stories on there.
Terry Labonte, the main guest.
And then tomorrow starts at 10:30. Doesn't get over until the Xfinity Series race is done. Saturday is all about the Cup Series. NASCAR America at 6. And then the race at 7:30. Thanks for joining Nate Ryan and myself, Dave Burns, here on the app. Have a great Friday afternoon, Thursday afternoon.